Hey everyone, welcome back to Live Bold and Boss Up podcast. Steph and I are here with you today to talk about business etiquette.
Yes, this is whenever you're first meeting someone, a new client, either a meeting at their office, but then we're also talking about meeting at a lunch spot or a restaurant, dinner meeting. What are some business etiquette tips that you can follow? Sometimes we forget about them because I feel like life is so casual most of the time that on a first client meeting, it's good to put your best foot forward and make a good first impression.
Right. And there's a lot of things that I think are important with business etiquette, because if you're going into the meeting and you need to negotiate on some sort of level, you want to make sure that psychologically you're coming into the meeting not aggressive and not seeming like you're desperate, right? So you can come to an agreement.
Agreed.
Okay. So the first thing is when you introduce yourself with your first and last name.
Yes. Hi, I'm Stephanie Marchese.
Hi, I'm Ashley Duraki. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It really sounds different when you come in with a first name. Hey, I'm John. Hey, I'm Ash, or I'm Kimberly. Like it sounds too casual. It sounds like you're just meeting friends.
Right. Agreed. And stand whenever you meet someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're there first and you're sitting, then stand to greet them, shake their hand, firm handshake, and look them in the eyes.
Right. Right. If you're sitting down, a lot of times psychologically, and especially if you're in a large group with many people, you'll be kind of forgettable. Right. So if you stand up, you kind of make that grand introduction. It's just more memorable.
Yeah. And I think it's a sign of respect as well,
Right,
to stand whenever you meet somebody.
Right. Exactly.
With the handshake thing, I think a handshake is important whenever you're meeting someone. But if someone doesn't feel comfortable in today's day and age, not handshaking, and you go in for a handshake and they put their fist out, then give them a fist bump.
Right.
I mean, whatever they are comfortable with, you want to respect that. But obviously I would always go in for the handshake first.
Yeah, I would too. And I mean, if they're the guest, right, I would always follow what your guest does.
Yes.
I would go in for a handshake too. And hey, if you guys miss and you want a handshake and they want a fist bump, don't be embarrassed. It's not a big deal. I mean, everyone's kind of missing that mark now. No one knows where everybody stands with that. So just let it roll off your shoulder and don't let it affect your meeting.
Right. Agreed. I also think that if it's just you and another person, you're meeting for lunch, ask them if they have to be out at a certain time. That way you respect their time as well. If they have to be out of there right at 1 or at, they have a time restraint, then make sure you honor that and ask them.
Yeah, I love that because it gives you an exit too.
Yeah. And then it's not awkward. Like say you have a hard stop in an hour and a half. That way they know you're not just being rude and not enjoying the conversation. You're stating that up front. I have to be out of here right at 1:34 meeting. So state that up front.
I think another thing is when you go to sit down, don't pull out a chair for anyone, whether you're male to female, female to female, male to male. Don't pull out a chair in a business meeting.
Right. In a business meeting. I feel like that's opposite for a date.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Because then you want your guy to pull the chair out for you.
Right. Pulling a chair out kind of shows dominance over the other person. So psychologically, you're already at a disadvantage if you're the one, having the chair pulled out for you. But in a dating setting or in a, in that kind of a setting, I still think females want their chair pulled out. So don't get that twisted.
Always follow your guest's lead. If they order an appetizer or even a drink, follow their lead. You don't want them to feel awkward or, you don't want to be the one ordering a drink if they're just drinking water. That's super awkward.
That will get awkward. Yeah. And it's awkward if your guest orders an appetizer and you don't, or maybe it's more awkward if they order dessert and you don't, because then you're just sitting there watching them, eat dessert and they're probably feeling like, oh, this person wants to go. And then how are you going to close out that meeting? How is that, final negotiation going to go?
Right. Make them feel comfortable. If they want a dessert, order dessert with them.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to eat it. And in fact, you shouldn't eat everything on your plate while we're talking about food and eating.
Yeah. You don't want to eat everything. You don't want to like be cleaning your plate with a piece of bread just to soak up every last little drop.
Although that sounds really good.
Although that's what I really want to do. Don't do it in a business meeting.
Right. Because psychologically, again, it kind of shows that you're starving, right? That's like your only meal. It kind of portrays a lower level. It's like unconsciously, it does.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So for family time, yes, I mean, feel free.
Lick your plate.
Lick it up.
But yeah, also while we're on food and eating everything, if you don't eat it all, don't ask for a doggy bag. You are here for the meeting, not leftovers.
Right. Right. No doggy bag. That's again for a family thing, but again, it's that psychological, right? Psychological warfare. No, but it's psychological when you take a doggy bag to go and everything, you're supposed to really show your kind of dominance in those sorts of ways, right? So it doesn't make them aggressive, but it's showing that, hey, I'm not starving, I'm not helpless, I got this. It's all
right.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. If you're doing a presentation or whenever you're speaking to someone, you don't just point with one finger. You keep your fingers together. It is a sign of, I don't know, politeness. You're not being too aggressive, like pointing with your finger. You use a couple fingers or use your whole fingers together. I'm showing our guests, like you can see me. Well, I guess if you're watching, you can, but yeah, I think if you just point, it's kind of rude
very
to
aggressive.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never want to point at someone.
Right.
Or something.
Because I mean, even though you're not meaning to be aggressive, subconsciously they could take it that way. And again, if you're in there for negotiations, you don't want them to be on the defensive when it's that time. Right.
Agreed.
You know what another point was that I don't know if I necessarily agree with is when the bread comes to the table, if you have bread, it said really to use your hands and not a knife. And gosh, I have a struggle with that because that's so the opposite of what I would assume to do.
I would think it'd be more polite to cut with a knife, but you're supposed to eat bread with your hands. So it's like breaking bread with your guests. So I can see it. I don't think your guests would think you were rude if you cut it with a knife. It's just more, of that underlying psychological message.
Right. I just skip it altogether. You know,
skip the carbs.
Yeah. Don't do it.
But if your guest is eating bread, you should break bread with them.
I mean, you could at least grab one out of the basket and rip it and then just place it on your plate, because then it looks like you're about to eat it and maybe you just get caught up in conversation and never get to it. And that's fine.
Conversation's so great that you didn't even have time to eat your bread.
No time. Oh, so another one was don't cross your legs. But in most meetings, you'll probably won't even be able to see from the waist down because you'll be at a table. But apparently like crossing legs is a little bit maybe sexy and can be distracting.
Well, it also shows that you're closed off. Like same with crossing your arms. It kind of shows that you're putting a guard up.
Yeah.
Where if you don't cross your arms, don't cross your legs, it makes you more approachable. That's what I think too.
Yeah. So we should really talk about like body language too, power stances and stuff like that. Yeah.
Although don't cross your legs, don't sit with your legs wide open either.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I feel like it's just natural for women to cross your legs, especially if you have a dress on.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, that's what's more comfortable to me.
Well, apparently you're supposed to cross at the ankles and then have your feet off to one side, either the right or the left. So your knees are touching. That's apparently the proper way to sit. Okay. But it's not very comfortable. No. I'm doing it right now. And it's like, you kind of want to uncross them.
Well, I mean, do what's comfortable for you. If there's a table and you can't see, sit with those legs open. Or not. Don't do it. Also, are we talking about body language still?
Yeah, I mean, Go ahead. You have, yeah.
I mean, I was gonna move on to the next point.
Go ahead, do it. Yeah.
I was going back to the food because I was just thinking, whenever you are finished, it is so natural for me for whatever reason. I think working in the restaurant industry previously, stacking the plates, like I'm trying to help out my waiter by like, if I'm done, putting my napkin on top, piling all my stuff together, cleaning the table around. I'm trying to help them out, but don't do it.
No, it's another subconscious, right? Like psychological thing that you don't want to do when
Right.
you're in a business meeting.
It's not etiquette.
It's not proper etiquette. You just leave it. Yes, put your knife and fork properly on your plate to signify that you're finished and you're done so that they can come in and pick up your plate, but do not even push it away from you. Just leave it. And I mean, of course, like when I'm out with the family, I'll do that because I have kids and they're making a mess. And,
You want to help them out.
I do
bad
that.
for the
Right.
waiter.
But for business
Right.
etiquette, don't do that. And again, it's just not proper etiquette. That's not what you're there for. Let them do their job.
And then once the conversation's over and it's a good time to leave, you're finished. Obviously, if it's your guest, you pay for the bill. If they are insisting, like they are adamant on paying for the bill, then I mean, you don't want to get in a fight over
Right.
it. Let them. But if you're the host and you invited them, by all means,
You're the one who should pay.
Yes.
Right.
No
Exactly.
questions.
And I know we said earlier, don't finish your food and don't take a doggy bag. That's not for business, right?
No.
Again, more for family, friends, whatever, but not for business if you're there for a meeting.
Right. After the meeting, always send a follow-up thank you letter. I love personal, written thank you letters. I think that that's a nice touch. Definitely an email if you're not sending that thank you card.
Right. If anything, it's a good way to keep you fresh in their head, especially if you're the host and you invited them. There's obviously something that you're looking for business wise to connect with them on. So send that thank you email. Appreciate your time. And speaking of thank yous, when you're in the conversation, try not to use thank you too much. Once or twice is effective, but if you use it more than once or twice, it starts to seem like you're maybe helpless
desperate.
or desperate or something like that. When you're exiting your business meeting, and you're like, okay, it's time to leave. Maybe you're standing and talking, at a cocktail event or whatever. Obviously, when you're eating dinner, it's like, there's an obvious exit, but you want to exit when you're talking. You don't want to, of course, exit when someone else is talking. You don't want to do that. That's rude.
Right. Yeah. That way, as long as they're talking, you're engaged, you're listening, and then, you follow up the end of the conversation and then say your goodbyes.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Time to exit.
Time to exit on that note. No, but like Steph was saying, we're interested to see what you think, especially with the breaking the bread piece. Right. And
yeah, I think there's probably so many other things too, but etiquette I think there's a lot of things that we don't think of on a regular basis. And I think some of it is maybe old etiquette that's not as applicable these days.
Right.
But maybe we should still think of those things. And I think a lot of times nowadays we get too casual.
Right.
So let us know. Let us know what we're missing. livebold@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, rate us, subscribe. Did I say subscribe?
Subscribe and resubscribe and keep doing that.
And until next time,
live bold and boss up.